Chapter 5 Unresolved Problems. Lamare Amark. I sat in front of my desk for 3 hours and had not written a word on the scroll. There was no reason that this lack of productivity should bother me because I still had plenty of time before the next meeting with Wind. Besides, I did not want to see Wind just yet. If dallying were an option, I would dally all the time. Wind always told me to bring balance to the land. That when I write, I have to keep in mind that there is nothing more essential than that. Like he believed that evil was as necessary for the good to be more felt and cherished by the citizens. Sometimes, I get confused with this too. Was it really the balance that this land needed? Did balance mean people having to suffer and die in the process? Wind's power was storm crafting, and I should not focus on its negativity because even though it brought forth destruction, storms could also channel water, air, and other elements that the people would also need. Northsum, my father, the previous emperor, believed in Wind right from the very beginning, saying that he would have a good place in Canella, and Wind was able to prove that. He traveled across Akea to help in the development of agriculture. When there was drought, his was the first hand that my father sought. Marriage to me broadened Wind's horizon, and maybe, something inside of him changed, and this became apparent as he yearned to know more, acquire more, harness his power more. I found myself biting my lower lip as I thought about what to write on the scroll. There was something that I had not tried yet, the volcanoes in Karasthea. Its eruption was something that I was holding back from Wind. I could not let him have me write something so brutal. I stretched my legs from under the table and sighed. It was a futile effort to try and keep on writing when no ideas came. Wind had been specific and insistent throughout all of this. There should never be anything repetitive about what I wrote. Nobody should suspect what my power was, otherwise, there could be havoc. From the window of my bedroom, I saw Kino outside reading a book. Other boys his age were usually in the habit of playing with their powers, but since he had none to speak of, he would spend his afternoon reading, or doing his assignments from school, or gathering berries from the forest to trade in the market. As a mother, I should be proud of him, and I was. But to be branded as unborn demeans my son, and when I was reminded that I was the reason for all of this, my burden would only become more cumbersome. I stood up from where I was sitting and went outside to join Kino. "How do you like it here?" He looked up. "The cottage?" I nodded. "It's all right, I guess," he said. "I've been thinking about moving somewhere else. I don't know where yet, but I want to know if you'd agree." Kino thought about my proposal before he answered. "It's all right. There's really nothing much here for me. My classmates aren't exactly friendly. I won't miss them, except Romeo, of course." He chuckled as he said the last sentence. "I almost flew the last time we tried." I narrowed my eyes at him to let him know that I was not too keen on his attempts to fly. Kino smiled impishly. "Are you sad?" I did not know why I asked that. Maybe it was because I was sad myself, and I wanted to see if he felt the same way. He shrugged. "There were better days, Mother. I could definitely use a few of them again," he said. I looked away. Where could we go? I could draw Akea's map in a scroll since I was familiar with all the provinces because it was part of my training in the palace. Father told me that to be a good leader, I would need to know each province by heart. And as for my dilemma, the solution could be simple for anyone else: draw a map, close my eyes, drop a pin, and go where it would land. Only, it was not as straightforward as that because if I were not careful about my destination, Wind would be able to find me. Half of the Akeans may not openly support him and may even want to start a rebellion behind his back, but the other half wants his protection, and if ever the wrong hands caught me, I would have to deal with the fallout from Wind. "Is something wrong?" Kino asked. "I don't know if any place is safe enough for us to stay," I said, my voice unable to hide the truth. "The nightmares, huh?" "The nightmares can't reach me anymore. They are of the past. But they're still horrible reminders. The best place for us to hide is right where no one would look for us," he said, and I laughed. "Of course. No, I'm not kidding," he said innocently. "Who are we running away from? The answer to that should give us our destination. Let's say I don't want to go back to the palace anymore, and I don't want to write any more stories," I said. He looked at me for a long while, mulling things over. A few birds flew from a nearby tree and landed on the patch of ground near our cottage. I watched as they pecked on the grass to catch the early worms. That's a pretty tough one. If we need to hide from the Emperor, he could still find us anywhere we go, Kino said after a moment of stillness. I nodded. Let's talk about something else, shall we? I said. The thought of running away from Wind was so depressing. How could I escape him without compromising the safety of my son any further? It's all right, Mother. If this is important to you, then we should do it. I don't know your reasons, but it must be something huge for you to think about running away. Does it have something to do with the nightmares? Does it? Yes. Then let's run away. I'm sure I'll be able to come up with something, he said. After all, that's what I'm good at, running away from bullies. He grinned at me as though what he said was funny, but I could not return his grin.